So hello and welcome to the 21st episode of the Boar Hat Tavern Podcast. Yes, we did take a week off and we do apologize, but we are back. This is a podcast all about Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross. I'm your host, Daz, and I'm joined today by the co-host of the podcast, as always, Sandyy and Novage. Today, we're going to be talking about the elephant in the room. Purgatory Ban just dropped today, so a lot to talk about him, a lot of opinions to give about him as well. Sandyy got a lot of good luck on the banner as well, so I'm sure she'll talk a little bit about that. We also had some news drop out of JP today. The Ragnarok characters, the first set of them, have been announced. So there's been some translated skills, some gameplay footage. So we're also going to give our first impressions on those characters too. And the end of the show, as per always, we're going to have a little game time. We're going to do 20 questions today. But before we start, Sandyy, Novage, we had a solid week off. I'd like to know what's been going on, Sandyy. What have you been up to for the past 2 weeks?
It's been chaos, Daz. I mean, I'm still in my work clothes right now, booked at home from work. There's just a lot of stuff that's happening in the theme park world. California and a lot of the restrictions have lifted. But today I had the health department check out one of my, the food and beverage department. So I had the inspection. Been there since 7 a.m. And I was like, Daz, we'll make it. And I was like, going like 90 on the freeway. I was like, yes, okay, we could do 8:15, but it's been chaotic. Hopefully we have some room to kind of breathe soon. Yeah, pretty much. I've been working 7 days a week, 10-hour plus days.
Oh, geez.
But I love this. This is my hobby. This is not a job to me. So I'm glad we're on and we get to chat about 7DS.
That's right. It's vacation time, right? You're off the clock officially. So I'm glad you can take the time to chat about Seven Deadly Sins and everything, get that like reprieve from work, because that's what 7DS should be, right? A lot of people sometimes lose sight of the fact that it is a game, and it's nice to like know that people still do enjoy it and see it as that, and like to talk about it like it is a game, because sometimes people find it to be a little cumbersome, a little bit too much like a job. So I'm glad that's not the case, Sandyy. This is pure pleasure time for you. So Novage, how about you? What have you been up to for the past 2 weeks?
I'd like to actually jump off real quick on the comment of like, I agree. I mean, I enjoyed the game. I would say a portion a while back, it did feel almost like a job, because you're like stressed out to make sure you do all your demons. You make sure that you're, like any other demons you could run if there's like a donation week coming for qualifications, So, but I mean, lately I would say I do miss like a daily quest here and there, but I guess it becomes easier once you start missing them. But I still do check in, but I do have to, I am guilty of missing like 1 or 2 check-ins so far in the last couple months. But overall though, I do enjoy playing the game. And I think that's, especially with the new content coming out, looking forward to it. Personally, Sandyy already mentioned it. I also live in California, and the state has lifted COVID restrictions for people that are vaccinated. Even at the job places now, Cal OSHA has, like last week, listed that as well, with some guidance on that. And it's just good to see things start coming back to normal. I was, at the stores last week, and, it's interesting how so much of the shelves are still empty. I didn't realize, because I actually was just shopping online, and I think that's what most people were doing. But a lot of stuff is just bare empty at these like major retail stores. But yeah, just glad, we're all slowly coming back together.
I think the bar for me, because things are starting to ease where I am too in Ontario, Canada. And I think the bar for me is as soon as I can start going back to playing hockey again, I'll know that life has returned to normal. And from what I've been told, it's about a month away. All the hockey rinks are talking about opening up. And yes, they do stay open in the middle of the summer where I live. Because it is pretty popular up here. But anyways, we've been chatting about our past couple of weeks a little much here. I think everyone probably is more interested in hearing about Purgatory Ban in particular, because he is one of the most anticipated units on one of the most anticipated banners we've had in a long time. He's the second anniversary banner, and there's a little bit of confusion there because it's the second anniversary of the game, I guess, or whatever we want to do it. But a lot of people are like, well, Global hasn't been around for 2 years. But either way, it's great that we're getting this crazy event right now, which is super cool. We all voted on the characters we wanted the banner. There's a lot of great ones there. The community banded together to kick out some of the lesser good units, I guess, if you want to call them that way. So almost every unit is like a great unit to get. It's the kind of thing where when I was pulling on the banner, anytime I got an SSR, I was like, perfect. I got happy no matter what it was, except for Green Escanor or Blue Team Meliodas. But still, you know, like they're few and far enough between. It really got me excited for the banner, and I spent every licking gem I had on this banner. Sandy, I said it off the top of the show. Your luck was pretty nuts here. How did the banner go for you?
So I work all these hours just so I can afford to whale out on this banner. So I did 3 rotations, and honestly, the gods were with me because I was able to 6/6 bond. And the banner before, you know, the Arthur banner, I also got him 6/6. Haven't really like put together that team, but like you said, Daz, like the other units on the banner itself are all good units. And you know what? Netmarble was probably like, they didn't want to piss me off because I was just buying all the packages. And I was able to get my Chandler 5/6, got some dupes, got the 6/6 finally. Yeah, and then I have a screenshot and I'll show it to you later, Daz. But I think one of those, I wasn't even recording, but I got 5 SSRs.
In one pull.
So,
that's crazy.
wish I could show you that animation, but I do have the screenshot. It's a good banner in my opinion, and it was worth every penny.
When you get 5 SSRs in one pull, do they have like 2 Escanors come out of the sky or something? Like I feel like they should do some extra crazy animation for that one.
Right, 2 demons, they just fight each other.
How about you, Novage? Did you end up getting Bond? Have you gone deep on them yet?
I actually a little over halfway through my first rotation, so I haven't went through it as much as you guys and haven't got them yet. But definitely, as you said it, the minute I have an SSR, like I'm happy because whatever it is, like, oh cool, you know, I got another Ludo, got some Tarmios, you know, so a lot of the units that, you know, I kind of wanted, you know, just in case I didn't get the bond are there. So it's a good banner. I'm just taking my time to go through it for luck.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people had a lot of gems going into this banner, mostly because if anyone did any rotations on ReZero, you got gems back, which was great. And then the Arthur banner was a pretty good, I'm going to say budget banner. If you just wanted to get Arthur, it didn't cost a lot to get him. So you didn't have to spend like 600 gems or like deplete your gem reserves by like a ton. So everyone's kind of been banking up these gems and being able to do, hopefully, like, you know, for most people, a rotation if possible, because this is definitely the banner to do it on. Just for the record, I did 2 rotations too. I had a lot of reserve gems going. I had more gems saved up than I've had for any banner before, and it felt really good. Now I'm at a big fat goose egg, but I did get 3 bonds and 2 rotate, like 3 bonds, and that's including the guaranteed one. So it wasn't the greatest luck, but I've got a 3/6 bond. I got a couple Ludos, a couple Tarmiels along the way, a couple T1s to get my T1 up to I think a 4/6 now. So it felt really good to get some of those characters that were like I was a little less lucky in the past to get them up again. And I think that's the whole point of this banner. But let's actually talk about Purgatory Ban, because he is a strong unit and he might not be as OP as a lot of people are making him out to be, but we'll see what everyone thinks. We'll get Sandyy and Novage just taken a bit. But first we'll go over all of his details first, starting with his passive. So every time the hero's ultimate move gauge fills up by 1 orb from using, moving, merging, or ranking up skills, moving or ranking up skills through merger, the hero's max HP increases by 8%, and you can get that stacking up to 5 times, and it's a gray buff, so it can't be stripped, for 3 turns, and it removes all stat decrease effects from himself. And I totally forgot about that. I've been playing a lot of Bond, and I forgot that you remove debuffs too. That's a pretty powerful passive. So it's very similar to Rem in that if you move, rank up, or use cards, you start getting those buffs, except they're gray buffs this time. His first skill is an attack card. It's called Heart Crusher. It inflicts detonate damage. It's another thing I kind of forgot about, which is equal to 9, 14, or 21% of the hero's maxed HP, and that's from bronze to gold there, on all enemies. So it's an AoE cleave card. And just for a reminder, detonate does 20% additional damage per orb on the target's ultimate move gauge. So you get a lot more damage if they're higher orbs on the targets you're attacking. The second skill is actually a buff card. It's called Gift, and it applies an effect on all allies, which restores 20, 30, or 50% of the diminished HP of the unit at the start of their turn. So it's not like an on-demand heal. It'll be at the beginning of your next turn you'll get it. And the buff lasts for 2 turns. Unless you get gold, it lasts for 3 turns. And it also increases your max HP by 10, 20, or 30%, again, depending on the rank of the card. So that diminished HP heal is the exact same numbers as a Blue King heal. The silver gives you 30% diminished HP. The gold gives you 50% diminished HP back. The bronze, obviously King's bronze heal doesn't have a heal returning to you, but you still do get a small one back. And Blue King's a pretty solid healer, so this is a pretty solid healing card as well as a buff card too. So there's a lot of utility on that one. Then his ultimate inflicts damage equal to 30 to 45% of his max HP if you max it out 6/6 on all enemies. And the controversial note, if you do get him all the way up to 6/6 like Sandyy, the skill gains rupture damage. So it's double damage to buffed enemies, which is a huge power spike because buffs, everyone's got buffs these days, right? So yeah, I'm so curious to hear your guys' thoughts on it. Sandyy, it sounds like you haven't had a chance to really dust him off yet, but I know he's been out on JP for a while, so we've seen a lot of content. I've used him a ton. I'll give some of my takes in a bit. But Sandyy, let's start the show off with you explaining what you think about Purgatory Ban.
I mean, first initial, just reading through his stats in general, and I haven't used him. I've leveled him to level 80, but I have fought him in ungeared PvP. He's very, very tanky, and I just feel like he's a triple threat if you build him right. Maybe, I'm too scared to go into geared PvP because he's tanky, right? He's a support unit, and also he's a damage dealer. So he's pretty OP in that manner, but there are counter teams out there. And, I'll just talk about my team. I've fought majority right now, all of the combinations of the Bond team, whether that be with Tweegod, Keo, Griamore. Of course, you got to have Arthur there, but you can still negate him. He's not broken is what I'm saying, because yes, he's tanky, but if you just get rid of Arthur, and I'm still using Blue Dairy. I'm using the one with Nanashi in the back, but I've switched out. I've been using my Emilia because she's 6/6. And so I'm just a stall team. And it's if I can just get rid of Arthur, Bond is pretty much kind of useless at that point. And I just build alt and I alt stall. So
if anyone didn't realize from when we were talking about his skills too, all of his damage dealing cards, they don't care what his attack stat is. It's purely based on his max HP. So he's kind of a unique character in that all of his damage scales off of his HP and ignores whatever his attack stat is. And that's one of the reasons that he does so well with a lot of the units that Sandyy was mentioning there. Arthur gives bonus HP, 30% HP, and extra damage to all of the units on the team if they're all humans. Bond's a human. Griamore, Twigo, they all give bonus HP as well. So if you really stack that HP up, Bond can hit like a truck. If you don't, though, he actually just kind of tickles a little bit too. If you don't run him with those units, a lot of people are running Twigo in the backline purely to boost Bond's damage. Him and Arthur together, Bond's health just goes crazy. Not to mention his passive, just stacking his own health, and his own buff gives him more health. If you have his buff going, you've got a lot of passive stacks, and you got like a Twigo or a Grimoire in the back. That damage card, even on a bronze, is doing a lot of damage. Novage, what are this kind of a neat mechanic, eh? Do you think they're starting a trend here? Are we going to see more like weird types of scaling damage going forward?
You know, I was curious to see what Netmarble would do with like a bond unit, obviously, when he was going to be coming out. And, you know, is it typical to the other units that, you know, that we've seen? And it's nice that they're trying something different. You know, this HP scaling is you know, it intrigues me. I think the unit's great. I don't have him yet or on my JP account, but once I get him, I definitely want to do a lot more testing with him. But I everything on paper right now, he's literally a unit that, you know, like you said, doesn't, you know, rely on his attack related stats. It's all HP. So in a sense, you just, in a sense, wait till you get your buffs on him. He's a support unit because, you know, he's able to, you know, slap on some extra HP to the rest of the team, as well as allow them to heal on their next turn. So it's like he's a support unit that could do damage if you let him go too long. Because I've actually made that mistake. I believe it was yesterday. I was just, you know, kind of playing against Arthur, Bond, and I forgot who the third one is. But I let that go around like maybe 3 or 4 turns. Bad idea. Like he almost killed me or my whole team. They all went from like full health all the way like down because of just like he got too many buffs on him. Luckily, I had my ults ready and I was able to take him out. But that was a close call. I was not paying attention to that. I was kind of just experimenting and seeing different ways to approach the team.
Yeah, the team definitely amps up a little slower than most teams do. You can't hit really hard with Bond on turn 1 like you can with like a T1 with, you know, a Gotha rank up, right? You're not going to be one shine turn 1. His team is based on surviving for him to get to ult or for him to get a lot of his damage cards out. And that's one of the downfalls of the Bond team. And it's good that every team has a flaw, because if it didn't, it'd just be broken and it would be no fun, right? If there's no counterplay. He suffers from a little bit of the Assault Meliodas problem in that he requires very specific units to work with him. You're restricted on which units you can use, because generally you need just human units, because you're probably going to be using Arthur, which is almost like made for him. But also the units that exist right now that boost HP a lot, the Grimoire, other than Arthur, like Grimoire and Twigo, for instance, they're not the greatest units on their own. So one of the biggest things that I've seen with using Bond and playing against him is he's very, very RNG dependent. If you don't get a Bond card or 2 on a turn, your card's full of Grimoire cards. Your hand's full of Grimoire cards, full of like Arthur cards, which, I mean, the stance card's great. The damage card isn't that great though. So you're really relying on, you know, 1 out of 6 cards coming in. Like that's the odds of getting that Bond damage card, or 1 out of 6 getting that buff card. So it's really a watered down hand that you've got with Bond, which makes it very vulnerable to RNG. That's one of the reasons I think a lot of people, one of the most popular teams that you'll see is Bond, Arthur, the 1, and then, you know, like a Twigo in the back line. And the reason you see that is because the 1's got 2 damage cards. So suddenly you're going from 1 out of 6 of your cards being a significant damage source to 3 out of 6 of them being a significant damage source. So that's more of a whole hog. And also, not to mention, T1 can like take somebody out, probably a red unit, maybe that like Arthur or Grimoire or whoever, you know, the other Bond team is using. So I think that's one of the biggest problems. And another big problem with it too is he doesn't have any ult control outside of, in most of these comps, outside of Arthur's stance. He doesn't have any good way of cleansing himself or no one on the team will really be a good cleansing option for him. So he's very vulnerable to CC or like alt control as well. So those, again, like if you're running the Bond team, that's a deficiency on your end. But if you're facing a Bond team, that's a good thing to go against here. But one of the biggest questions that we've gotten in our Discord and just chatting to people is what kind of gear we should be using on Bond, because suddenly we've got a unit that doesn't need attack rolls, right? Well, theoretically doesn't need them. Do either of you guys have any thoughts on what kind of gear you're building out for him? I've got some thoughts, but I'm definitely interested in hearing yours. Sandy, do you have any specific way you're going to go with your Bond, or have you already rolled up some gear for him?
No, but I do have like those SSR tickets that you can find. I mean, again, he's HP dependent, so you can't go wrong with HP defense. But I know the interesting ones are, HP crit gear, right? Just because you want to guarantee that crit. However, it's like, what's the percentage, Like, how do you want to scale that? If it's crit chance, is it crit damage? But I mean, HP, you got to go HP and something else. HP defense, HP crit. I heard you were talking a lot about crit, Daz. I know you ran some numbers on it. I'm not a numbers gal, so I'm waiting for you to let me know before I choose what equipment to do.
Are you telling me the Guild Boss Queen isn't a numbers gal? I kind of assumed that crunching the numbers is like what made you so good at Guild Boss. Yeah, I mean, I can take us through some of them. I was looking at his crit chance numbers and trying to decide where a good place to sit is, and I've got some advice to impart on anyone who's willing to listen. It may not be the best advice in the world, but it's my advice either way. So if you get all the cosmetics for Bond and you SA 5 him, he will have 80% crit chance base, which isn't really high enough to be reliable. Most, I'd say, top tier units have, 50, 60 crit resistance. So if you just go on at that baseline, you're going to be critting very unreliably, like 1 out of 5 times, say, on most characters. Some characters have much lower, and some characters have 80, 90, or even higher crit resistance. But my opinion is since attack doesn't matter at all, yes, attack gives you a lot of CC, so you're sacrificing CC here for damage, but I think the best way to go is mostly crit chance rolls. If you go, let's say you go all the way to the one side, you do all crit chance rolls, the most crit chance you can get, if you crunch numbers, is 125% crit chance, okay? So if you're going against units that have 50, 60% crit resistance, you're going to be critting most of the time. That being said, a lot of people like to go for the sexy crit damage rolls too. So I think a lot of people are going to go splits with crit damage and crit chance. I think personally you should go heavier on the crit chance side. I'm actually contemplating going all crit chances. I like reliability. I like having that reliable, friend there backing me up, not the kind that's not going to show up, 2/3 of the time, right? Like I want to make sure that I get that damage out there, because I don't think the extra, 4, 6% or whatever you get from a crit chance or crit damage roll is really outweighing the reliability that you can get out of crit chance. And that's just me. But that being said, I'm going 6 crit chance rolls, 4 crit damage rolls. I might start pushing a little bit more to the crit chance side after I see it in practice. But that is my take on it. But of course, CC can be really important for going first. So if you feel like CC is more important than those damage numbers, yeah, HP defense is perfectly legit. You can even go all attack subs on it too to try and get as much as possible. And then you're probably going to be using HP food, not CC food, to try and get extra bonus out of your damage there. So that's another thing to consider. A lot of people in PvP use CC food. So in that case, no matter what, you're probably going to go second. But against other bonds, it could come in handy if you go first. Going first is a huge advantage, helping push that ult a lot faster, helping control the other side a lot quicker. Getting that Arthur stance up first is also really important. So it's up to everybody about what they think they like. I am a big damage person, so I'm going HP crit. Novage, what side of the scale are you going to land on, though, is what I'd like to know.
So I think you said it. Your you're probably going to be fighting if you're doing geared PvP against a lot of people that are using CC food. So I guess once you accept that, then you're probably a little bit easier on what you want to build for your team. I mean, I think it just comes down to it is you're going to be going first or second when you face another bond team, because they're going to be running HP food as well. So I mean, there's various things. I mean, I'm actually also leaning to the HP crit because some of the units before, like Sario or the one, especially the one, because my first UR set was attack defense for Escanor, right? So when the one came out, he slapped that on him, but then that whole I think during that time a lot of diversity of different gear sets started to happen. So people started using attack crit. Sario came out and they're like attack crit, but I didn't do attack crit for him before. I prepared a attack defense. So regretted that. Obviously had to make two new sets of pieces for him. And so this time around, I'm like, I'm not going to take that chance. I'm just going to go attack crit for this one because I think the roles I'm going to go with are also crit chance. I want consistency on the damage and just not that, 1 out of every 4 or 1 out of every 5 isn't going to crit. And then you're going to, that one time that you really needed it.
Speaking of critting too, Bon actually, I don't know what the numbers are, but has insanely high crit resistance. So no matter how much you go down the crit chance route, it's very unlikely you're going to crit him, which is one of the great things about Bon. He's tanky even against the one Escanor who has type advantage because he's probably not going to crit against Bon, or at least the chances are fairly low. I'm interested to see what shakes out as like the best gear set for him, but I think there are a lot of ways like we're talking about you can go. The other thing too is like there's probably gonna be more bonds in the future. So maybe HP defense is the more versatile set. So if you're not that actually I guess brings a good point. If you do HP crit damage or even HP defense and you want to do different roles in the attacks, make sure your attack pieces, your ring and your bracer, are the defense or the crit damage set, because then you can take the HP set and you can use it on other bonds who probably benefit from attack rolls, either previous bonds or bonds that are coming out in the future. So whenever you do UR your pieces and you make gear sets for characters, that's something to always be cognizant about. If there's strange rolls, make sure that's like the 2 set, not part of the 4 set, because then down the road you'll be able to swap things in and out a lot easier. And I've made lots of mistakes by not doing that in the past, and I've learned from them. That's for sure. So one other character that I was actually trying out and I was getting some success with on a Bond team that we haven't really talked about yet. And this character actually shores up some of the weaknesses of the Bond team is Red Easton. And some people have used Zanari too. I've seen some YouTubers use Zanari as well in this slot. But one of the great things about Red Easton is she's got a cleanse. So if Bond gets CC'd, you can just cleanse off whatever the problem is. He'll keep his buffs, not his buff card buff, but his like self buffs. And then also she's got alt drain too. So you can actually alt drain the opponent's Bond. The only problem is she can be a little squishy and she doesn't amplify damage, or she's not a significant source of damage. So you're sacrificing that for utility. But I've liked Red Easton a lot, and I think she's one that I'm going to be investing in and trying out because I've already got Easton gear from guild bosses and such in the past, and I've invested some in her cosmetics. I know Sandy knows what I'm talking about because Easton, she's on a lot of guild bosses. At least she has been in the past.
Red Easton's actually on the banner too. I didn't get her when she was on the MK2. I think she was on the MK2 banner. Whatever banner she debuted it on, I did not get her, but I actually got her right now trying to pull for Bond. So happy for it. Helps boost my CC box.
Yeah, I surprisingly got her. I didn't have her until this banner, and I got a couple copies of her too. So at first I was like, "Oh, cool!" Like a unit for the collection. But then the more I looked into it, the more I was like, "Actually, this is a useful unit." Turns out. So she's already SA5'd and level 90 in my box. So yeah, she's a good character.
He's just squishy, Like I said, like you can counter these teams because then you just kill his friends first. Basically, like if your red Easton is squishy, you just kill Easton, kill Arthur, and you know what? Arthur, like I thought he was gonna be better with like his taunt card. It's pretty nice that it alt drains, but if you freeze him, he's pretty much useless.
Yeah, and you're probably not putting Esterosa in the back lines to give him like immunity to like, those types of things. But yeah, that's an amazing point too, Sandy. Like a lot of people make the mistake, at least this week so far, of being like, okay, Bond's a threat. I need to get rid of Bond. But really, like it's really, really tough to kill Bond because of how tanky he is. Do what Sandy says. You must make a great friend. Kill the friends first. So if you kill the friends, kill the Arthur, kill the Griamore, the Twiggo, the Easton even, like you're really cutting his legs out from under him, especially if you get rid of the Arthur. If you get rid of that Arthur, the Bond damage drops so much because he doesn't get the extra HP, he doesn't get the extra damage from his passive too. And it's kind of like when you went against a Pierce team, you kill the Lilia first, right? Sometimes you don't, but if you do, then they're not so scary anymore. The Rugal and the Bloody Meliodas don't seem like so much of a threat. And that's the exact same thing that happens with Bond. Yeah, you got to still be careful because he can do a lot, but you kill Arthur, Twiggo pops out of the back and you're just laughing. You're like, okay, Twiggo next. You just one friend after another. And the last one you want to kill is Bond. If you just CC him a little bit, like we say, he's vulnerable to CC, you freeze him, stun him, do whatever, you can kill that Bond at the end a little bit easier. He'll just be tickling you outside of maybe his ult when he's the lone man standing. So that's just something to keep in mind. Plus, when he is the last man standing too, his passive stacks will start depleting because they only last for 3 turns. If you can only use one card at a time, he's only getting 1 stack. So the average will be about 3 instead of like maxing out to 5 stacks. So you won't get like full stack Bonds unless they get a lot of crazy merges and such. So it can get a little bit easier to deal with Bond when he's on his own. And that's what I've personally found facing him this week. Hi. Novage, do you have any final thoughts about Bond before maybe we move on to the next topic for the day?
No, just wishing everyone luck on the banner if you're pulling.
Very much
Both
so.
of us, myself and everyone else that's pulling still. We all need that luck.
I was going to say, I think you're wishing yourself luck is what you're trying to do here, because I feel like most people probably already have pulled on like, I'm sure like a lot of people will be pulling over the course of the next few weeks, but most people have probably depleted most of their gem reserves if they're planning on pulling, and most people are. So, but yeah, good luck to you, Novage. Hopefully next week you'll report back in with a high alt level Bond. So next on the docket, we are going to talk about the Ragnarok characters that were announced. So JP today, this is actually perfect that we delayed the podcast until today, because now we get to like see these characters and talk about them. The Ragnarok expansion that everybody probably knows is coming, just got their first few characters revealed. The 3 characters that they're going to be releasing next week on JP is the new blue Lostvayne Meliodas, which is kind of cool. So we'll get a new color variant of Lostvayne Meliodas that you can hopefully share cosmetics with, presumably so. We got a red character called Sigurd, who looks like he's the main antagonist from the Ragnarok story. No one really knows what the story is about, but just from the trailer, it looked like he was kind of like the main bad guy or the main villain. And then we got Thonar as well. She's kind of like the bigger, I guess I should watch what I say. I was gonna say the bigger lady. Luckily she's not a real person. She can't take offense to that, but she looks kind of like, like she's more like a warrior type. And she's a green unit as well. So those are the 3 characters they're going to release in the initial Ragnarok banner. It looks like it's your standard kind of banner that goes 600 gems. Will get you a guaranteed copy of whichever one you want, presumably one of all 3 of them you can pick. Or one you can pick from the 3 that are on the banner, including the Lostvayne Meliodas, and you get a guaranteed SSR at 300, but it's not necessarily one of the featured units. So just going over the units individually, we're not going to go into huge detail. We're just going to kind of talk about them on the periphery, because a lot of these skills, Like no one really knows 100% how they work. They've been translated. We've seen a little bit of gameplay footage, but there's a lot of nuances to them. A lot of these passive skills or abilities are like, they read like textbooks. They're really long. So the new blue Lostvayne Meliodas, let's talk about him first. He's got the alt that we all know and love from Red Lostvayne Meliodas, the one with the secret technique and everything too. So right off the bat, the first impression about it, he's probably going to be a whaley unit. If you don't have him 6/6, he's not going to hit as hard. Same as Amelia too. Same ultimate, so same result. He's a kind of a whaley unit. The difference between him and Red Lostvayne Meliodas is he's got a single target alt depletion card, and his other card is a single target debuff card, which reduces attack related stats. It's Rugel's single target debuff card. So this blue Lostvayne Meliodas brings a lot more utility as opposed to raw damage that we saw with Red Lostvayne Meliodas. His passive is an interesting one. We're still trying to figure out, and there's a lot of debate on exactly how it works, but the long and short of it is it helps him alt rush by giving him some boosted orbs when you start the battle. And again, we're not going to get into the specifics because whatever we say is probably going to be wrong, but it looks like he's a very alt rushy type character. Sandy, is this Lostvayne Meliodas? Is he going to amount to anything? What do you think? This is kind of a strange character that came out of the blue. You like that pun?
I love it. No, I mean, love the alt, and it seems like I'm not expecting him to be that good because, like you said, Daz, you're going to need to whale out on him to get him at the alt level, 6/6, because then that passive comes in handy, right? Because then it's just you're going to be alt rushing, and maybe good if like you're a whale, which I probably will try to 6/6 him. But there's nothing really kind of that's like great about his kit. Nothing like stands out. And you were talking about how Sigurd, he's the main villain, the bad guy. When we look into his kit next, it seems like he's the main person on the banner that we all want to aim for. Lostvayne, I think he's a good addition to the box, but it's just his damage cards are not there. Alt depletion is fine, but you're dependent on the alt.
His kit is making me think a little bit that they might be pushing alt rush again down the road. Like even Bond has shown us that there is a little bit alt rush coming back because a lot of people alt rush with Bond to a certain degree. So this Lostvayne Meliodas may be a good way to help counter that to a certain degree, but like kind of like almost like maintain the arms race because he's rushing alt as the other team's rushing alt. Because if they're rushing alt, he benefits more by getting more alt himself, and he can also drain the other team. So I almost wonder if this is like a precursor of things to come, maybe. I could see him maybe being better down the road too, but I don't see how he could slot into existing PvP teams or even PvE teams and be very successful yet. But who knows? I guess it's time will tell.
It just seems like they're releasing a lot of these characters with like AoE alt, like you alt rush and you're basically anticipating high alt levels just to wipe the entire team, the entire enemy team. I don't know. There's a lot of AoE alts. And you need high alt level for that AoE alt to do any damage.
Yeah, but we do know, Red Lostvayne Meliodas has one of the strongest alts in the game, so the blue Lostvayne Meliodas will be right there too. And with all the red units we've been seeing recently, maybe there's a little bit more to it. And maybe once we start seeing people use it, maybe he will become the new OP character. Novage, do you like blue Lostvayne Meliodas? I keep wanting to call him blue Demon Meliodas, but blue Lostvayne Meliodas.
Like you said, he doesn't fit in any team right now. I agree with that. Who knows? It could be a start of different units coming out. I mean, we saw Arthur, then we saw Bond recently. Maybe we see Blue LV, then we're going to see another unit that pairs well with him. Who knows? But I feel like he's a very heavy PvP unit. I mean, we've seen some PvE content with Lostvayne, the current one right now. So, I mean, but I feel that the one now kind of just outshines almost a lot of PvE content if you're having trouble with it, or Sario, and so I'm not sure if he's going to even be really in a sense useful, because I know at one point he was used for like a Kumu. He was used for what other units? I forget what other stuff, but I don't know if it just basically, if you can't use LV because of type advantage, you just switch out for this one. I don't know where you would go with that, but yeah, definitely think that he's just a whale type unit, at least right now, until they possibly release some other units that might work well with him. Who knows? I mean, if people are sitting on those platinum coins, it gives you something to use them on.
Yeah, I mean, when Arthur came out, like the Excalibur Arthur, everyone was like, oh, he looks pretty good. And they tried him out. They're like, yeah, this is a little lackluster. But then turns out a few weeks later, we realized what he was really there for. And who knows, maybe this new Lostvayne Meliodas will find a similar fate down the road. The next unit that we want to talk about is the unit that I am most excited for on this new upcoming Ragnarok banner. That's Sigurd. Hopefully that's how you pronounce it. He's a red unit, and again, he's the main villainy looking character. He's got a lot of cool things going for him. The first of which, the big one that jumps out at me that I thought is really interesting, he's a human, but he also functions as a demon. So he can go on an Assault Meliodas team and be a demon. He can go on a Bond team with Arthur and be considered a human. So dual race is a thing now. Who knows if it's going to be more of a thing in the future too, but I think that's an interesting path they're taking. So what Sigurd does, he's got an AoE extort, which is similar but not exactly the same as Bond's. He extorts less than the green Bond, Nunchuck Bond does, only 25%, I believe, on a gold, but he also does damage with his extort. So it doesn't actually go through shields and things. So you got to break the shield and make the extort work. But what's really cool is the way his passive synergizes with this. His passive, the way that it works is at the beginning of his turn, if the opponent has any stats reducing debuffs on them, for each opponent that does have one of those, the whole team is going to get one buff on themselves for 10% attack-related stats. So if there's 3 people that have these stats-reducing buffs on the opponent's team, everyone gets 3 extra buffs on them, which is really cool because it's free attack-related stats buffs basically on the beginning of your next turn. So this is pretty cool, especially because he's got an Amplify card, so it does more damage for his Amplify card. And this pairs actually really well with both Assault Meliodas and Purgatory Ban. A lot of people think, okay, well, Purgatory Ban, you just said Purgatory Ban doesn't need attack stats. Yeah, but it's attack related stats, so it gives some crit chance and crit damage. So you're boosting potentially, not only making the crits even more reliable, but 30% more crit damage there too. He seems like he's going to be a very strong character, a very good damage dealer. I don't know. Sandy, am I off base here?
No, I feel like he would fit, into the Bond kind of team really, really well, replacing that Griamore, or, maybe even like having him, Arthur and Bond with maybe Tweegot in the back. That's like super tanky, But also with Assault Meliodas, I can just imagine if you don't play Assault Melee teams as often and you get those defense-related stats down, like you're not only giving Assault Meliodas more attack, like you're just done. I think honestly that dual race kind of card that they're playing, Netmarble has, is really, really nice. Maybe, there's been some mention, with Green Gother. So is this something that's going to make Green Gother, Halloween Gother, a little less broken? Because then you can't really, it eliminates 2 races that you can pair with a Green Gother if you're putting Sigurd into the team. I don't know. What do you think, Novage? Am I right? Am I wrong? I know we all hate Green Gother. Or Chick.
Yeah, I saw some clarification recently that he does take up both slots, so you're going to have to either, obviously him and Gother, they take up 3 races there. So you either, was it Goddess, Fairy, or Giant are left in your remaining slot for your PvP team. he definitely has a lot more interesting stuff in his kit than the blue LV, at least right now on paper. And just in my mind, just automatically thinking of, the possibilities, what you could do with him. But I mean, it'd be fun once this unit drops and how it will affect, as always, PvP content, and any which way they could help with PvE content, especially as they've been slowly getting a little bit more challenging. I would say. I think they're putting together some stuff where you kind of just have to. You can't just bulldoze your way in there with the one anymore. Like the recent, I forget the name, the recent Crocodile one. Because he has such a high defense, or even the new Tower Trials. You can't. You kind of have to try a little bit now. You can't just leave it on auto.
I think there's a lot of interesting matchups or pairings that Sigurd potentially has that a lot of people haven't really been talking about too. Like there's the Ban and Meliodas, because he's a demon and a human. But there's some other characters too. Like one character that popped up for me was Rem. I think he'd actually pair really well with Rem too, because he gives buffs to the team, attack related stats. Rem's got amplified too. You can do like an amplified TM almost. There's one like little note I wrote in our show notes here too. Can you imagine if you had Sigurd, original Red Arthur, like the old school one, and Rem, and like the opener, you can get 6 attack buffs, or 6 buffs on Rem by doing a Sigurd extort, a Red Arthur buff. Well, I guess it'd be on turn 2, but still, then Rem would have 6 buffs going into the second turn, like ready to hit that amplify card. Not to mention that she can start stacking her buffs as well on herself. So I think people are going to find some pretty interesting comps to work along with Sigurd. But yeah, like even just talking about the Bond comp too, like Bond teams are tanky enough to begin with. Then you got to deal with an extort. If you can't cleanse that extort, oh my gosh, there's no way you're getting past that Bond, especially if he's got his buff card up too for that extra HP. Oh my gosh, it's going to make him a nightmare. Yeah, I guess you are sacrificing some damage if you potentially like lose out on a T1 or a Grimoire, say, to put in Sigurd, but Sigurd can do a lot of damage on his own, and also that crit chance crit damage that is amplifying his damage, maybe even more so than some of these other characters would be able to provide, being a secondary support for Bond. So I think he's going to slot in really well, especially in 4v4 format too. I think he'll work really well there, extorting 4 characters. Oof, that just scares me. Okay, last character on the list is Thonar. Probably the least exciting of the bunch, but we're still going to talk to her about her a little bit. She really seems like she's tailor-made for the new blue demon, Belmoth. She has a passive, and again, we're not going to go into the specifics, but it is deathmatch only, and it involves when a debuff disappears, everyone on your team gets attack buffs and attack-related stat buffs. She's got a charge damage card, very similar to Zaratros. She's a green unit. I think this is Netmarble's way of saying, okay, Belmoth is hard. It's time to make it a little bit easier for you. We'll give you Thonar, and you can just kind of roll through it. I imagine the strategies are going to change as soon as she drops. Maybe Sandyy will do a video on it. Who knows? But I'm excited at least for making Belmoth a little quicker, because it is a slow demon to have to run through. Do you guys have any thoughts on Thonar? Anything you want to say about her?
Well, she's definitely no Mike Wheeler. So, but maybe, in a sense, they did mention that there was going to be more content, more co-op content. So she could already be getting us ready for other content that may be just as difficult as the blue demon that we may need her for. So, and I think she's free, so that's also kind of cool. I believe she might be free.
Yeah, I think I heard that too. I don't know if that, I couldn't confirm it anywhere. I was actually trying to dig up if she was definitely free or not. But I mean, that would be a really nice move on Netmarble's part if they did give it to us for free. So fingers crossed that is an accurate tidbit of information, because that'll make running Belmoth with randoms a lot easier as well, because I think we all know what it's like to run Belmoth with people who seem to have no clue what they're doing. I mean, it's getting better, but it still can be pretty rough from time to time. So Sandyy, we got a featured comment that is a little bit outside of the scope of our usual featured comments, but we'll include it in there anyways. Do you want to tell everybody what that comment is for the week?
Yes, this week's featured comment, it's very different. All of the other weeks we choose a comment wherever you guys leave the comments for us, whether that be on YouTube, Discord, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find us. But this one was kind of, I would say, more like a shout out to us. And for those of you listening in and watching, but basically the YouTuber content creator Beats PH. That's his YouTube name, did a tier list, like basically on all the Grand Cross YouTubers or content creators that he watches or he follows, right? And guess what? He put the Boar Hat Tavern Podcast at the top of his list. Like, what? Mind like blown. Like, did we make it, guys? Are we famous now?
Yeah, it was pretty cool to see someone. I mean, I've subscribed to him, so I came across in the feed. I was like, okay, I'll watch this. I wasn't even expecting us to be like anywhere on the list. I was like, oh, hey, like I saw a little icon on the bottom. Then you get to our section. He's like, I'm going to put them right at the top. I was like, what? I know it's like a little bit of a joke. Like it wasn't a serious tier list, but still, it's kind of nice to be put in the, I think it was called the 1 tier above S tier, and be the one at the very top. So that was kind of cool. A nice, like you said, a really cool shout out from Beats. So yeah, maybe we'll have to get him on the show in the near future. I'll have to reach out to him now that we know that he watches the show.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, it's pretty awesome. I have it saved on my playlist, so gotta watch it. Please come on our show.
Yeah.
Love to chat with you.
I'll reach out to him and hopefully we'll be seeing him soon on the show. Okay, but now that we're winding the show down, it's time for our fun game segment. And as I mentioned before, this week we're going to be doing 20 questions. If you were a child and you played games, you probably played 20 questions with your friends. It's pretty simple the way it works. Sandy and Novage are going to ask me 20 questions to try and, yes or no questions, to try and figure out what it is I'm thinking about in my noggin. We've got 3 20-question things we're going to do. One is a person, one is a place, and one is a thing. Person can be kind of loosely defined as a person, but still a living being. So yeah, Sandy, what do you want to start with? A person, a place, or a thing?
Let's start with a thing.
Thing. Okay, and then are you going to start with a question too?
Yes.
Good thing, because if you didn't, we'd be here for a while.
Oh, I know. Okay, I'll make it fast. Is this thing a food item?
No.
Is this thing a weapon?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I made this way too easy, apparently. Novage, you are on the ball. Yes, it is a weapon. Sandy, what do you think now?
Oh man.
Novage just teed you up. Like he's making it a lot easier.
It's a weapon though. There's so many weapons. Is this weapon on a male character?
Yes. I feel like Novage knows the answer. He's trying to decide if he wants to guess it now or if he wants to try and narrow down another question with the risk of teeing up Sandy to get it right.
Is this weapon Sigurd's sword?
No, it's not Sigurd's sword. Sandy. Good guess though, Novage. Good guess. I guess that would be thematically a good one for me to do, but I didn't do Sigurd's sword. I should have done Sigurd's sword though.
Oh man. Is this weapons blue Lostvayne Meliodas?
No. And I'll give you guys a little hint. If you keep guessing weapons, we'll probably be here for a very long time. I feel like you should maybe try and narrow it down a little bit more. So it's a male person uses this weapon. So Novage, you want to keep guessing or are you going to try and narrow it down further?
Is this a weapon on one of the 10 Commandments?
No.
Snaps. Is this weapon a spear?
No. It's crazy. Just when I thought you guys were going to get within like a question or two. You're getting stumped. I'm glad you got to the weapon part as early as you did, because if not, this would have taken a really long time. So it's not a Ten Commandment.
Is this weapon?
Not a spear. It's a male character. I feel like we're playing
Is
Guess
this
Who. You gotta like
weapon,
knock over the people.
Is this weapon on one of the 7 deadly sins?
No. It's not sin. It's not the commandments. Running out of options here. It's not a spear, so we know it's not like king or Halbram or a fairy, likely.
Oh my gosh, why can't I think of this? I'm stumped.
Oh my gosh. It's a very famous weapon. Maybe one of the most famous weapons ever, even outside of 7DS. That's a really big hint. Oh my gosh. Okay, Novage.
Yeah, you gave it to her. You gave it to her.
You go, Novage. I'm. It's been a long day.
I didn't give it to her. Apparently, I gave it to you, Novage. What's the answer to this one?
I'm sure everyone that's going to watch the replay of this, or if they're watching live right now, they're probably dying because they're like, it's Excalibur. They're just yelling Excalibur right now.
And that is because it is Excalibur. Excalibur. We just had Excalibur Arthur. I figured it made sense. Usually I try and keep it a little bit relevant to the current content. Okay, Sandy, you failed hard there. Novage, you didn't do the greatest, but you came back in the clutch at the end. So, Novage, I'll let you pick the next one. Are we going to do a person or a place?
Let's go with person.
Person. All right, what's your first question?
Is this person one of the 10 Commandments?
No.
Is this person part of the goddess race?
No.
Is this person?
Is this person?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Sandy, if you want to take 2 in a row, by all means, go right ahead and skirt all the rules that we put in place. It doesn't matter. If you want to ask 2 in a row, you can go right ahead. It's just for fun.
Is this person of the human race?
No. Not human, not goddess, not 10 Commandments. I feel like just like Excalibur Arthur or Excalibur, you guys are like skirting around the answer. There's not much left here.
Is this person a fairy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Very much so. Hi, Novage. Not a lot of fairies to choose from.
Is
Sandy.
this person king?
It's not king. Sandy. How about you?
Okay. So I think you teed me up. We're going to keep it relevant. Is this person Elaine? Because you made it on the banner.
Sure is. Well, and Purgatory Ban, right? So
Yeah.
Purgatory Ban, Elaine. It is Elaine. I figured I wouldn't be too obvious and go Purgatory Ban, so I went with Elaine. Well, there you go. 1 each. So we're down to the rubber match. I'm not sure if that's a thing outside of my region, but we're tied. So we're going for the final one here. It's a place. So Sandy, you got the last one right. So you can ask the first question.
Place. Is this place PvE content?
Is this place PvE content? That's a tough question to answer. I don't think any PvE content has taken place in this place that I know of. So that's a I don't know answer for you, but I don't think so. We can come back to that, see if I was wrong later, but you should probably just pretend like you didn't ask that question and we'll just move on. Novage, what do you think?
Is this place a city?
No.
Ooh. Is this place Elaine's resting place?
No. Oddly specific.
I don't know.
Just because Elaine was the answer to the last one doesn't mean I'm going to go with Elaine for all of them.
Last one. Is this place in Leonis?
No.
Is this place Purgatory?
Yes! You got it. I don't know how you got it from that point, but I was about to give you a big hint. So I'm glad that you did jump on that, Sandyy. But yeah, Purgatory Ban. Seems to make sense, right? Why not? I guess it was kind of the obvious way to go. But congratulations.
That was one of the questions before, so I thought you're gonna ask us that. Somehow it was related to one of the other questions, but I got confused thinking that, he won't use Purgatory again.
I think I used it in one of the Jeopardies we did recently too. Oh my gosh, I'm losing my voice.
It was such a bad game. You're like, I'm done with you guys.
Well, you know what? If I'm going to lose my voice, I guess now's the time to do it because we're at the end of the show. Oh my goodness. Thank you, everybody. I have to train you guys on doing the outro in case this ever happens. You can take us out. But thanks everybody for joining us at the Boar Hat Tavern, a Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross podcast. We stream the show live on Twitch. It's at twitch.tv/Boar Hat Tavern. Good luck trying to figure out what time it's streamed at, because I don't think we've had the same time for 2 weeks in a row for the past couple of months. But we will settle it down to a regular time once again, once Sandyy and Novage's schedules kind of get normalized a little bit. With their jobs, it's been a little bit crazy recently, but we are going to be getting back to normal, we promise. Sandyy, if people want to try and find video content that you do, where can they find that?
Yeah, thank you to all my loyal subscribers, because I've just kind of stopped uploading. But please find me on YouTube, Sandyy with a double Y, 7DS.
If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can email us anytime at podcast@boarhattavern.com or follow us on Instagram or Twitter at @boarhattavern. All three of us are members of the Global Guild Denied, part of the Scoundrels Alliance. If you'd like to join our ranks, reach out to us. Instagram, Twitter, send us an email, join our Discord, do whatever. You can get in touch with us. Shouldn't be hard. You can also subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you find your podcasts online. We're probably there. You can also find our shows on our website at boarhattavern.com, which I haven't visited probably in 3 or 4 months. Hopefully it's still online. But we also like to thank Madeline Marois for crafting our killer logo, Streetwise Rhapsody from YouTube for composing our awesome cover of the Grand Cross theme song that we use for our intro, and Andre Bobe from ArtStation for letting us use his outstanding 3D renders of the Boar Hat Tavern for our pre-live and post-video splash screens. You can find all of their work at the websites in the description wherever you're watching or listening to this. Everybody, thanks for listening. Have a great week.
Bye.